Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Yesterday we left off reading you could say the monologue, the court case, the presentation, the case in favor of Ajamila. And we didn't finish because we had so many questions before. It took us about an hour before we got to read. We were discussing the whole idea of how you become an animal. How does that work? What happens if the animals take prasadam? Do they become humans? Do they become devotees? We talked about the past life regression of a devotee who was a dragonfly who, got some prasadam? We talked about all kinds of crazy things, but it was all Krishna conscious. And we sang a few songs about Prabhupada saying a business owner of a grain mill becoming a rat in his next life. So we discussed a lot about animals, what it takes to become an animal, what happens if you become an animal, what if you're a devotee and you act like an animal, then what happens? So if you want, you can go back. Everything is on our page, both on YouTube and it's also on our Facebook page, professional page. And if you're watching this on my personal page, we can't see your comments. So if you want to make comments, then you have to come on the professional page. And everything is posted on the professional page. So I promised yesterday that there were two quotes that we were going to read. One, you probably heard me say that Prabhupada said surfers will become fish. And we also talked about Americans becoming Russians, becoming Americans, which is interesting. And we also talked yesterday about what's better, to be a Russian or American. We didn't decide exactly. Probably neither is better to go back to Godhead. But we're going to read these quotes. And one of the things we've been doing is we've been discussing lots of things in general, but now we have more specific quotes to support it. And we've heard this is the philosophy, and now we're getting specific quotes from Prabhupada about things we've been talking about. So it's been quite interesting. I find it interesting, even though the topic is, in a sense, I wrote a TV commercial jingle for the detergent of the holy name. Oh yeah. So we were talking about how the holy name is stained. Like with one holy name can clean all your sins. I mean, all your past karma. So we did a little funny commercial. Do you have deep stains on your heart that you can't get rid of? Do you have burnt crust on the bottom of the pot of your heart? Well, take the cleanser of the holy name and it will remove the deepest, darkest stains stuck to your heart. And it doesn't matter if it's been there for lifetimes, it will remove it. Yeah, so we did talk about that. So if you miss that class, we'll pray for you. No, if you miss that class, then you can just go Facebook, click videos, my professional page, it'll be there. Or you can go to the YouTube page, it gets put up, but I don't know if it gets put up right away. Some things happen and I'm not aware at the speed it happens. Depends, I guess, how that devotee was feeling that day. So we are going to begin, as every good devotee begins Bhagavatam class, with Jai Radha Madhava. And I have my keyboard here for adding to the meditation value of this. So please chant with me. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Krishna Vallabha Girivara Dhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivara Dhari Shodhanandana Vajjana Ranjana Shodhanandana Vajjana Ranjana Shodhanandana Vajjana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vana Chari Jamuna Tira Vana Chari. So now we're going to put it in fourth gear, everyone. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girirvara Dhari Gopijana Vallabha Girirvara Dhari Shodanandana Vajjana Ranjana Shodanandana Vrajjana Ranjana Shodanandana Vajjana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Sri Radha Madhava Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shamaniti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sanyavadi Paschatya Dasatarine Vanchakapaturvyaschakri Pashandavyevacha Paditanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. One time a devotee, I was wearing this t-shirt. I got this t-shirt because I thought it would be a nice color for doing some videos. And the devotee thought I had left my wife. So let me try to cover that. You may get the wrong impression. My wife said, I will never let you go. Hare Krishna. So, I don't know if we answered all your questions from yesterday, but if we didn't, then just put them up again. And I want to begin now by reading, because yesterday we didn't get to read very much. We had it was nice. We had lots of discussion, but because we didn't get to read very much, then I thought, well, let's start reading a little bit in the beginning. We actually went yesterday for an hour, just discussing things, singing songs, and answering your questions, reading your comments. So we are now reading the statements of the prosecution. Is it the prosecution or the defendants? We're reading the Yamadutas are the prosecution, the Vishnudutas are the defendants. We're reading the statements of the defendants, and I'm going to read over again the last one we read. Just we've been sometimes reading the last few things just so we remember kind of the context and the continuity of what we've been discussing. So 1 minute. It's time for a little more light. Okay, I have So for those of you who are translating, we're on page 29. And I added some more to yesterday's document. I don't know if we're going to get that far, but you could get the document on Google if you can post that comment. And then we're going to begin reading from the statement, even if a person is unaware. And that was the statement we read yesterday. That was the last statement. And I think, yeah, it was an interesting statement. And we're going to read it again. Yes, so that statement is up. Even if a person is unaware of the potency of a certain medicine, if he takes that medicine or is forced to take it, it will act even without his knowledge, for its potency does not depend on the patient's understanding. Similarly, even though one does not know the value of chanting the holy name of the Lord, if one chants the holy name knowingly or unknowingly, the chanting will be very effective. So you remember we were talking about this, and one of you had written a comment that was a little confused. About this, and it can be a little confusing because it sounds like anybody can chant the holy name, and it doesn't matter if they're making offenses or not, because that's basically what this is saying. The medicine will work even if you don't understand how the medicine works. And then some of you were thinking, but we learn that you should chant properly, that the medicine is somewhat affected by the mentality. And that's true, but what is being described here that's not affected by the mentality is the fact that when you say the holy name, all your past sins are removed. What is affected by the mentality is the development of your Krishna consciousness. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said something that is quite interesting. I don't know if you all know this. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. We tend to think, a lot of us tend to think when we're chanting offensively, or if someone sees us and they make fun of us, we might think, well, that's offensive. But according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when you begin chanting, say, here, take the holy name, or you just see the Hare Krishna devotees and you say, Hare Krishna, or you even joke, Hare Krishna, it's considered namabhas. And on the stage of namabhas, you become purified. But you can't stay in the stage of namabhas, and if you don't understand what are the 10 offenses and don't make the effort to remove those offenses or to avoid those offenses, you will not advance beyond the stage of namabhas. The other thing Bhaktivinoda Thakur said is that from the stage of namabhas, you can go down to the stage of namaparad. We were saying yesterday, if you want to get Shuddhanam, you have to understand the 10 offenses because you have to stop committing them. Right? So, and once you understand them, you have to understand them so you can stop committing them. And once you understand them, if you commit them, you've committed them understanding what they are, as opposed to the doc's not updated, but I don't think it matters. Kamini is asking. So you can put the Google site, and if I get beyond to a certain point where the new information is there, I can upload it in the middle of class. And but I don't think we'll get that far. So she's going to put up the link for the Google site where the doc is sitting if you want to download that. And every day I add more to it, but I didn't upload it to Google today. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, so when you understand what the offenses are, then you're trying to seriously become a devotee, then you can commit the offenses. So you can go from namabhas down to namaparad. But these people who just say, I don't like Krishna, or Hare Krishna, or Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, that's considered namabhas. And that is not going to get them love of Krishna, but it's going to purify them of past sinful reaction. It's at least going to put them in a good place. So that was the confusion. How is it that these people are just saying Krishna anyway, and this verse is saying you don't have to know what the holy name means. You don't have to know anything. You just have to chant, and it all works. And then we're thinking, why are we having all these japa retreats and workshops and books on japa, how to chant, when you can just chant and it's fine? Well, it's fine for those who aren't devotees, but it's not fine for devotees. Just like we were discussing the other day, that verse, akama sarva kamava. If you have all desires, approach Krishna. And then we're thinking, no, I'm not supposed to approach Krishna with my desires, all my desires. You're not. You're supposed to say, Krishna, what do you want? Excuse me. I got attacked. There's something in the air, some pollen. We're supposed to say, Krishna, what do you want from me? How can I serve you? We're not supposed to come to Krishna with a list. This is what I want. But that verse sounds like, bring your list. What's on your list? What's on your bucket list? Bring that to the temple. Go in front of the deities. Number 1, good health. Number 2, I want to pass my exams. Number 3, when I pass my exams, I want to get a good job. Number 4, I want to get a job in this city. Number 5, beautiful wife, blonde hair, blue eyes. Number 6, and you're thinking, and if we did that, that would be going down. For this person doing that, that could be going up. So that's what we have to understand. From where you are, certain things will be going down. But if you're down from where you are, certain things will be going up. So for us, we're up. For the non-devotee, they're down. Right? So that's good for someone who never comes to the temple. Hey, come to the temple, bring your bucket list to the deity. And then you sit down and hear the lecture saying, you shouldn't bring your bucket list. Anyway, it was because he wanted to ask something of the deity that he came. It's because he wanted to ask something he's associating. And so the theological understanding given by Srila Prabhupada, by our Shastras, if you come in touch with Krishna in any way, you become purified. But what is not offensive for them will be offensive for us. And we don't want to come in touch with Krishna unfavorably, because anukulyena Krishnanushilanam, for us it has to be favorable. For someone else, what's favorable could be unfavorable for us. So that's where we got some misunderstanding on this verse. So yes, we're on the street, we're distributing books, we're doing Harinam. So we give mantra cards. And we say, chant Hare Krishna. But we don't say, but first, before you chant Hare Krishna, I want to make sure you understand these 10 offenses, so let's go over them. And then you give them like a 15-minute explanation. Say, now you can say Hare Krishna. That's for when you take to the practice of bhakti, when you're now striving for pure bhakti. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, you start at Namabhas, and then you can go down once you understand, you seriously take to bhakti, you understand the 10 offenses. Now you can actually do a good job in committing them. But if you don't understand them, it's just like Ajamila, it's just Narayana. He wasn't committing an offense because he was just chanting Narayana. Or he didn't know what the offenses are. He was not trying to develop pure bhakti. So there's another Mahatma out there. Wow, I thought I was the only one. You mean there's more than one? Okay, so Mahatma Das, which is not me. Why don't you write your name Mahatma Das the second, or is that Mahatma Das Das? I named a devotee Mahatma Das Das. He was a good servant. So it means we have no right as a devotee to ask Krishna for anything except service and pure devotion. I wouldn't put it in that sense. We have no right. I mean, yeah, we could do a song like that, right? Phil Collins said, you have no right to ask Krishna for anything material. You have no right. I wouldn't say it, you have no right. The idea is, if it is something material you're asking Krishna for, it should be something material that's going to help you spiritually. And maybe on a certain level of bhakti, you wouldn't ask for it. Yesterday, we did a class in Spanish. I have to take a little break here. Let me show you what I did. I made a cigarette. And I don't know if we did a class last night in Spanish. Of course, I spoke in English. That's at 7 o'clock on Tuesdays. You can attend if you want. It was broadcast on Facebook, but it's also on Skype. So, devotee was saying, I'm smoking, and I know it's wrong, but I can't give it up. Why is that? So I did a little skit. You want to see the skit? It was an interesting skit. I think skits, are illustrates philosophy. Then I'll get back to your question. So, smoking is really bad for you. It causes lung disease, heart disease, and it actually kills you. And it causes emphysema, this and that, and it makes you age faster. I know all that. I know everything you're saying is true. I've read it all. I've studied it all. That's the condition we're in. Illustrates the point, right? We're doing it and we know it and we're still doing it. So that's what this is. I'm not smoking. Don't worry, I don't smoke. I never smoke. Well, I smoke some things, but not tobacco. But I gave that all up and never looked back. So, if you have material desire, actually, it's not if you have. Because we have material desire, we have to figure out what we're going to do with it. And so, I wouldn't say you don't have a right. You have a right. Well, it's not even you have a right. You just have. I think that's the answer. It's not you have a right. I have no right to have material desire. No, you have material desire. So now the question is, what do you do with it now that you have it? And then so you have to figure out how I can use that in Krishna service. At the same time, you understand pure bhakti means I don't ask anything, Krishna, for myself. I only ask. And if I'm asking for myself, it's only because I need that for service. Otherwise, I don't need it. I wouldn't ask for it. So that's how that's how you understand it. In other words, I'm asking Krishna for something. Is this for service? If it's for service, fine. And you might say, but it's a material thing. But will that help your service? Will that help you be more peaceful, stable in bhakti? That's also okay. But as you evolve higher, you ask less and less, and you only ask for pure devotional service. And you're more dependent on Krishna, and you're more accepting. So that's a whole other topic. If you go to my SoundCloud, there should be a course, a workshop on prayer, which I highly recommend. I think it's really good, and it'll help your chanting also. And we talk a lot about this. So we did that commercial I did yesterday. I don't know if it was based on this. I don't think so. But maybe, yeah. So the point was, it's removing sinful reaction, and they've begun their devotional service. But for us, seriously, we have to chant. We have to chant seriously. Jai Sachinandana Das Ki Jai. It's early for him. Well, it's not that early anymore. Now it's kind of early. He's in Los Angeles, 5:24. He promised me he would listen to me. Now, okay, so we're going to read more. We have to Sachinandan. You're up early in the morning. It's time to hear Bhagavatam, early Bhagavatam. So let's go to the next. Begins therefore. Oh, I think this is the purport. Yeah, because it's not in quotes. So this is the purport to what we just read. Therefore, one who desires freedom from material bondage should adopt the process of chanting and glorifying the name, fame, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at whose feet all the holy places stand. One cannot derive this benefit from other methods, such as pious atonement, speculative knowledge, or meditation and mystic yoga, because even after following such methods, a person will take to fruitive activities again, unable to control his mind, which is contaminated by the base qualities of nature, namely passion and ignorance. Last night in class, I was saying, and I've said this before, but Krishna inspired me to say it. I think it's a great meditation. All the problems that we have, they exist in the modes of passion and ignorance. They don't exist in sattva guna. So any problem that we have, it's because of contact with passion and ignorance. And if we just stay in contact with sattva or vishuddha sattva, we won't have problems. I mean, of course, you have a body, you're in the material world, those problems. But the internal problems of consciousness and so forth, those exist in the modes of passion and ignorance. So what is being said here is, if I do atonement, but that atonement doesn't get me out of passion and ignorance, then the problem continues. You go to church, you tell the priest, I stole a candy bar, and the priest says, chant 10 Hail Marys. I'm Jewish, I don't know, I just heard. If you're Jewish, you steal candy bar. I'm not sure what they tell you to do. Probably they just tell you go back and pay for it. Do they tell you that in the Catholic Church when you say I stole the candy bar? Do they say go back and pay for it? Or do they just say chant 10 Hail Marys and keep the candy bar? I don't know. That we have to investigate. But the point is, so you say your 10 Hail Marys or whatever, pay the priest some money. Unless you do a process that's going to get you out of passion and ignorance, what are you going to do? You're going to do it again. So that's the point. Atonement in and of itself doesn't elevate you necessarily to the mode of goodness. Chanting the holy name will elevate you way beyond goodness, and therefore it weeds out the root of the desire. So, repentance is good, but in our philosophy, repentance and then committing sin again, in a sense, is actually worse than repenting. I mean, it's like, why are you repenting if you're going to do it again? Better wait to repent to make sure you're going to work on not doing it again. Or the purpose of repentance, if you actually repented, would be to purify you so you don't do it again. So repentance is good, but our philosophy teaches continual repentance is not good, because then you're taking advantage. So if you study Christianity, it's kind of evolved. It's not originally like this, but it's evolved to this kind of state of endless forgiveness, endless repentance, endlessly saying, please forgive me. Or it's even evolved beyond that, where you don't even have to ask for forgiveness because you're endlessly forgiven. Now, you might say, well, isn't that true in Krishna consciousness? It is and it isn't, because Prabhupada said it's not our philosophy that you go on sinning and your spiritual master accepts it or Krishna accepts it. But it is our philosophy that we are weak and that sometimes we will fall down, but we are remorseful and then we correct ourselves. And so Prabhupada said, Krishna will forgive you. One time Prabhupada said, Prabhupada, will you forgive us? And I said, I'll forgive you once, twice, thrice, but after that, I will forgive you, but Krishna may not. Krishna may look at you and say, this loser, throw him to the dogs. Not exactly like that, but Krishna is going to look at you and say, okay, you made a mistake, you repented. Then you made it again and you repented. Then you made it again and you repented. It's like, when are you going to stop making the mistake? So there has to be some progress. You have to be moving up the ladder. Then Krishna accepts that repentance. But the idea, the pure idea of repentance is, if I'm actually repenting, I would stop doing it. I would become purified. So that, we could say, would be repentance in sattva guna. But if the repentance is kind of like, hey, I stole a candy bar, all I have to do is go to the priest and tell him, chant 10 Hail Marys, and I'm good. I can go out and steal another candy bar or do something else. That mentality, that is not going to help us. And I think some of us have that mentality. The other mentality we have is, what can I do? I'm helpless. What can I do? I'm fallen. Very dangerous mentality. We had discussed that a few days ago. You may be fallen, but the holy name is not fallen. So don't blame your troubles on yourself, because the holy name is more powerful than you. If you want to blame your problems, blame it on the fact that you may not be chanting well or rising properly or following certain principles. But don't blame it on yourself per se, that you're unqualified. Blame it on the fact that you may not be taking the process well enough to get purified. Okay, is that all right? I hope that was all right. So we're going to continue reading. I have to go down because okay. We're going to continue reading. Because if you go back up to where it says Kamaniya, then she has posted this there. You can read it. This is now. Paragraph begins with because. Because this very confidential historical narration has the potency to vanquish all sinful reactions. Listen to this, everyone. You're getting blessed for having been to these classes. A person who hears or describes it with faith and devotion is no longer doomed to hellish life, regardless of his having a material body, and regardless of how sinful he may have been. Indeed, the Yamadutas do not approach him even to see him. After giving up his body, he returns home back to Godhead, where he is very respectfully received and worshipped. Okay, so now we've just been blessed, because at the end of chapters of Bhagavatam, usually you get a blessing for reading that chapter. So for reading the chapter, hearing about Ajamila, we get, a kind of nice blessing. It's okay, back to Godhead. That's pretty cool blessing, right? You get to go back to Godhead. Not only do you get to go back to Godhead, when you get there, you're worshipped. Okay, that seems like a good deal. Read the chapter on Ajamila and get to go back to Godhead and get worshipped. So then some of you are thinking, okay, why have I been trying so hard to be Krishna conscious? All I have to do is read the chapter, I'm good to go, I'm on the list, back to Godhead. So let me just go out and enjoy the material world. That mentality may be there, and that's the Christian mentality. And that mentality is so full of, that stuff the cows, not the cows, the bulls. That stuff that comes out the back, the rear end of the bull? You know what that's called? I won't mention it. But if you think, okay, this is it, I just have to hear this story and back to Godhead. And no. If you think like that, you're not full of chit. You're full of that stuff that comes out of the back of the bull. Yeah. Chit is a different thing. That's knowledge. You could either be full of chit or you could be full of, the other stuff. So this is a real problem, because the mentality of a devotee is that I want to do service, I want to please Krishna, and I want to do it purely. The mentality of the devotee is not, I could read this story And then I could go out and enjoy the rest of my life, because a devotee does not enjoy materially. So if you're actually a devotee, when you read this, you wouldn't think like that, because you'd think, well, there's no enjoyment materially, and my enjoyment is through the processes of bhakti, especially chanting and hearing and all this wonderful service Krishna gives me. That's my pleasure. And then, if you're more advanced, you'd read that and think, yes, but I deserve to suffer, so probably I'll just take another birth, or Krishna, wherever you want, I will go. That's how you'll think. A devotee doesn't have a cheating mentality. And if you look at Christianity, the way it's presented today, it really represents a cheating mentality. It's like Jesus said so many things, but we're human, and maybe we can't follow so well, but it's not a disaster, because we'll never be perfect. And he'll save us. He'll make up for what we lack. So that's true. It's just that our definition of perfection and not being perfect, and their definition of not being perfect, are different. Our not being perfect is chant Hare Krishna, follow the four regular principles, do your best. You're not perfect, do your best. Their definition of not being perfect is accept Jesus, do your best, and there's no kind of like real standard of what, just do your best. And we say do your best, but follow these principles. They say do your best and kind of not so many principles. That's the defect. So again, to remind you, Prabhupada said, I'll forgive you once, twice, thrice, Krishna may not. Or I'll forgive you, don't take advantage. That idea is there. Don't take advantage. So when I was reading this, I was thinking, these kinds of things can activate the cheating mentality. If we have a cheating mentality, we start thinking, oh, okay, if I do these things, I will get liberation. And maybe I can do just enjoy this world and do these things and get liberation. But the point of bhakti, the point is not to get liberation. That's not the ultimate goal. The point is to satisfy Krishna. And certainly hearing Bhagavatam will satisfy Krishna, but hearing it so you can get liberation, it's not going to satisfy. He's going to think, poor thing. What happened to this poor devotee? He could be relishing the nectar of hearing and chanting, and he's just reading Bhagavatam so he can get liberated and go out and, party. Poor guy. I feel sorry for him. Yeah, you can imagine how sorry Krishna feels for us. We think that's actually happiness. So, let's read the next one. This is the last verse in this section of verses. We didn't read all the verses, but this is the last one we're going to read. While suffering at the time of death, Ajamila chanted the holy name of the Lord. And although the chanting was directed towards his son, he nevertheless returned back home, back to Godhead. Therefore, if a person faithfully and inoffensively chants the holy name of the Lord, what doubt is there that he will return to Godhead? Hare Krishna. The now is even getting more confusing, because it says, he said, Mahatma Prabhu, I thought he was chanting Namabhas. Now it says offenselessly. Inoffensively. Well, he wasn't making an offense. It wasn't Shuddhanam. If it was Shuddhanam, straight back to Godhead. Back to Godhead. Back home. But that didn't happen. He, instead of dying, he was freed from his sins, and then he was allowed in that purified state to continue. And then later on, he went back to Godhead. So, it wasn't offensive, it was namabhas, but it wasn't pure. And so, because it wasn't pure, he couldn't go back to Godhead yet. And so he was given the opportunity to make it pure. So that's what happened. His life was extended. The Vishnudutas came. The Vishnudutas did not come to take him back to Godhead. They came to ward off the Yamadutas, to prevent the Yamadutas from taking him. He wasn't ready yet to go back to Godhead. He needed more time. So instead of being taken by the Yamadutas, because he chanted the holy name, he was free from his past sins. Vishnuduta said, you can't take him. And he regained his consciousness. And then he began purifying himself. And then later he became purified and died in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada said something we're going to read later. He said, actually, he was chanting his son, but he remembered Narayana because he was a devotee when he was younger. And this question came up yesterday. Was this a blessing on Ajamila? How did it happen? Was it due to his past devotional service? And we talked about that a little bit, but I'm not going to talk about it more because we're going to read something where Prabhupada talks directly. So rather than me explain it more, we can read exactly what Prabhupada said. And today I want to, so there's a few more things I want to read because I promised I'm going to read about the Russians, the Americans becoming Russians and the Russians becoming Americans in the next life and how that works. And it's interesting. And then we're going to read about how you become a fish, in case you're interested. I wouldn't recommend becoming a fish, but we're going to read how you can become a fish if you really want to, or even if you don't want to, how you will become a fish if you're thinking a certain way. So we're going to get this directly from Prabhupada. So, purport, the next thing we're going to read, it's called You Might Forget Krishna, but He Won't Forget You. And this is so beautiful. This is one of the, I think, to me, the most outstanding features of these classes is that we see how Krishna doesn't forget the service of the devotee, and that's this story of Ajamila is all about that. This is why Ajamila was saved, because he did devotional service. So Krishna arranged this whole thing. You will name your son Narayana, you will chant his name at the time, call him, and you'll remember me because you did devotional service when you were a kid, and you'll say Narayana, that you worshiped Narayana when you were young. So when you're calling your son Narayana, now you're going to remember me. This is all Krishna taking care, Krishna kind of forcing us to remember him. So let's read this. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we therefore change a devotee's name to one that reminds him of Vishnu. If at the time of death, the devotee can remember his own name, such as Krishnadas or Govindadas, he can be saved from the greatest danger. So just like we have Sachinandan here. Sachinandan, when you leave your body, all you have to do is say, Sachinandan, Sachinandan. And then if you remember your own name, so if I remember my own name before I was a devotee, that's not going to help. Well, maybe your name was, I think your name was Steve, right? Steve Schwartz, or whatever your name was. Steve Schwartz. Who am I? I'm Steve Schwartz, and I die. Oh, what misfortune. But I die and I remember, I'm Sachinandan Das. Whoa, go to Mahaprabhu's Leela. So one of the items of initiation is to change your name. You must change your name. That's one of the items of initiation. If you get initiated and your name isn't changed, that was not a bona fide initiation. Other things also happen. So Prabhupada here is explaining, why do you change your name? So you can remember your own name, and also other people can remember your name. It's a really, if you think about name changing, giving a name of a devotee or a quality of a devotee or a name of Krishna, it's perfect. Therefore, the change of names at the time of initiation is essential. The Krishna consciousness movement is so meticulous that it gives one a good opportunity to remember Krishna somehow or other. So let's put this in modern English. Prabhupada's saying, become a devotee, get initiated, we got you covered. You got a new name, you got tilak, tulsi beads, you have the holy name. When the Yamadutas come looking for you, they'll see you and they'll say, wrong person. So Prabhupada's saying, We're so meticulous. We've thought of everything. We've got Bhagavatam, you got association, you have the deities, you have the holy Dham, you've got your name changed, you're wearing tilak, you're wearing neck beads, you're good to go. You are in line for the flight. So let's continue reading. A good opportunity to remember Krishna somehow or other. If not this way, that way. Remembrance of Krishna at the time of death is generally possible only for persons who have established an intimate relationship with Krishna throughout a lifetime of devotional service. When Ajamila was a young boy, he was trained by his father to be completely faithful to the Lord, and until the age of 20, he served Lord Narayana very nicely. Although Ajamila had fallen down from the standard of devotional service to Lord Narayana and forgotten his relationship with him, Narayana did not forget, and in Ajamila's hour of need, he reciprocated his devotees' love. Beautiful. Thus, Ajamila was given the presence of mind to remember Narayana at the time of death. So, often you hear the story, well, he chanted Narayana, but that was the name of his son, and he got purified. But if you study the story more, especially some of the lectures, then you see, and then Prabhupada's saying here, he remembered Narayana. So this all came back to him. I did it. So the point is, your devotional service saves you. And we're going to read again about this. Actually, if I could go ahead and read that, it would make more sense. This is, we're going to go way ahead because let me see if I can find it. Yes. Kamaniya, you have to go down to page 31, or everybody go to page 31. Well, if you have yesterday's document, you won't have this. It says October 26, 1966 lecture, Sinful in Life, but Remember Krishna at Death. This is really interesting for two reasons, or maybe three reasons. It's interesting because it continues the topic and of what we're just reading about Ajamila. It continues the story and it further elaborates on what we're talking about. It's interesting because, in a sense, it contradicts what we talked a little bit about yesterday, because this man asks a question. If you are not Krishna conscious in life and you remember Krishna at death, will you go back to Godhead? And Prabhupada says yes, and that appears to be a contradiction. How would you remember? So that's why it's interesting. So Prabhupada gets to explain it, because we've been saying, well, you're not going to remember Krishna if you don't practice. And everything we read is practice, practice, practice. How will you remember Krishna if you don't practice? And this appears to be a contradiction at first. So to grab your attention, I'm saying it appears to be a contradiction, but Prabhupada resolves it. The third interesting thing, this is 1966, which I find just interesting to read how Prabhupada's preaching in 1966. These people don't know anything. Maybe this is Indian man, maybe he knows more. So this is October 26, 1966. This is 1 month after Prabhupada incorporated. It was shortly after, I think it's just when he got 26, 2nd Avenue. So I entitled this, Sinful in Life, but Remember Krishna at Death. I should slow down for the translation. I like to be lively because, we have to transmit energy over digital waves. But if I go too fast, I don't know, I feel sorry for the translators. Anyway, we'll try to slow it down a bit. Indian man. Supposing there is a person who is not Krishna conscious during his life, but at the time of death he becomes Krishna conscious, then what is his body? In other words, what body does he get in the next life? Interesting answer Prabhupada gives. he goes to Krishna. And the man's asking, what did he ask? He's not Krishna conscious during his life. At the end of his life, he thinks of Krishna. Prabhupada said, he goes to Krishna. And we're thinking, I don't even know if I'm going to go to Krishna. And this person goes to Krishna? Interesting. Let's read on. Indian man. So then, it is that we can perform bad actions during our life and only at the time of death, and Prabhupada interrupts him. Yes. Okay. Yes. The man, it's kind of like the man, it's again going back to this idea, how can I cheat the system? Like, can I just do whatever I want? Can I even be sinful? And, I've got wallpaper of Krishna Lila. It's all over my room, so I'm going to make, it's all over my house. So as long as I die in my house, I'll be good. I'll be seeing paintings of Krishna. Or I'll tell my daughter, my son, when I'm dying, just say Krishna, Krishna, and show me a picture. And, I'll enjoy now and go back to Godhead. So it sounds like Prabhupada saying that because he said, yes. If you are so fortunate, and now he tells the story of Ajamila. So yes, if you're so fortunate, who is so fortunate? Just like Ajamila. Throughout the whole life, he committed all sinful acts. But when he was at the point of death, he had a pet child whose name was Narayana. So he was calling, my dear boy Narayana. So when he was calling Narayana, he thought of Narayana. There it is. Prabhupada said it. You've heard it. Today, April 22nd, 2020, in Srimad Bhagavatam class, you heard it. He was actually thinking, he called Narayan, but when he called, it triggered. And so, the important point is, why did it trigger remembrance of Narayan if his whole life he was sinful? So Prabhupada will explain. So when he was calling Narayan, he thought of Narayan. So immediately he achieved Narayan, Indian man. So don't you think it's a contradiction that if a man is bad throughout his life and only at the time of death he thinks of Krishna? And this means that, and Prabhupada interrupts him. No. So this is like going against everything we've been discussing. You have to prepare yourself. So why is Prabhupada saying this? Now, Prabhupada's saying you'll be tested at the time of death. If you don't practice, how will you pass the test? Over and over, and we're going to read more quotes about that. And the man is saying, but isn't that a contradiction? When Prabhupada's saying no, you have to understand the context. He's saying no, it wasn't a contradiction for Ajamila. Yes, it is a contradiction. The answer is yes, it's a contradiction. It goes against everything Prabhupada said. And here he says no, but it's not a contradiction for Ajamila. That's the point. And he's going to explain. The history, that history of Ajamila is different. In his childhood, he was a son of a Brahmana. He was faithfully discharging the duties of a Brahmana. But accidentally, when he was young, he was married also, accidentally, when he was young, he was passing on the road and some Shudra girl and boy were embracing and kissing. And he became attracted. And he became attracted by the prostitute. And he left home. He left his wife and everything. And then he became a great dacoit and a smuggler in everything he did. Everything he did means he did everything bad. And he had so many children. I think it was 88 when he had Narayan. They call, are you sexually active? Well, Ajamila was sexually active at 88. That's kind of old to have kids. And he had so many children. Youngest was Narayan. So at the time of death, because generally people become attached to the youngest son, so he was calling Narayana. But he remembered, oh, that Narayan. So why did he remember that Narayan? It was a reference to the context. As soon as he called Narayan, in his boyhood, he served Narayan under the direction of his father, so he remembered Narayan. Therefore, it is not always possible, but therefore in Bhagavad Gita it is said, Swalpam apya asya dharmasya trayate mahatobhaya. That means if you do a little devotional service, you'll be saved from the greatest kind of fear. Oh, the translations there. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. Diminution. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. And a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Prabhupada goes on. If somebody has executed devotional service, even a little bit, it may be, it can save him from the greatest danger. Hare Krishna. So, you found that interesting? I found that interesting. For the last 3 weeks, we were just talking about one thing. Prabhupada saying one thing, you have to practice bhakti. Practice, 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 practice. And then maybe at the time of death, the Vaikuntha airplane comes and you go. And here Prabhupada saying, even if you don't, but you did devotional service when you're younger, you may remember Krishna because of that. Krishna may just come in your mind, even you're forgetting, even though your whole life you're trying to forget. You know, some devotees, and this is sad, they leave Krishna consciousness. And you know what they do when they leave Krishna consciousness? They try to forget Krishna. They actually try. I don't want to think of Krishna. I don't want to think of anything. Give away all their Bhagavatams. I don't want anything around me that reminds me of Krishna. I want nothing to do with it. And still, Krishna may come to them at the time of death. That is amazing. That is swalpam apya asya dharmasya. Swalpam means a little bit. You do a little bit and look what you get. That's quite that's quite a good investment, isn't it? Okay, so what I want to do is I promised to read 2 more quotes about the Russians and the surfers. So Kamini, if you go back up to page 30, it says, Russian becomes an American and an American becomes a Russian. And this is interesting and for several reasons. One very interesting reason is there are Russians listening right now because this is being translated into Russian. And of course, there are Americans listening. So it's interesting for that reason. And it's just interesting in and of itself, the way Prabhupada explains it. So we're going to read, and I don't know where this is from, but I suspect it's a lecture. You can kind of tell when you read something, it's a little more, if it's a lecture, it's a little different style of English. Now, Krishna is not like us. So in the Bhagavatam, Prabhupada wouldn't say now. Now, Krishna is not like us. The present verse of the Bhagavatam says that Krishna left this world. But that does not mean that he left this world as we leave it. Our leaving this world means that we leave this material body and accept another body. Now, we may have an American body. In our next life, that sounds very American. I need some kind of Russian thing for this one. In our next life, we may be in a Russian body. That was not Russian at all. And I don't know. That was very American. Maybe Russian, but I doubt it. Now we may have an American body, and in our next life, we may be in a Russian body. And Prabhupada explains why. An American, well, I have to give some history. Prabhupada's talking about American fighting the Russian. Well, up to, I don't know what year it was, America was and Russia were enemies. My whole youth growing up, we were enemies. Russia and America were enemies. That was like our arch number one enemy. If anyone was going to kill us, it was the Russians. That's who we were afraid of. So Prabhupada's making reference to that because that was the reality at that time. So Prabhupada's saying an American who's fighting a Russian, potentially you could be fighting directly. And so anyway, an American who's fighting against the Russian in this life may get a Russian body in his next life. This is the law of nature. Sada tad bhava bhavita. Bhagavad Gita 8:6. Whatever one thinks at the time of death determines the next life. And then, in his Russian body, he will fight with the Americans. And in his next life, he will get, you guessed it, an American body. This is going on. Bhutva, bhutva, praliyate. Bhagavad Gita 8:19. Sometimes Russian, sometimes American. Go on fighting. That's all. This is called Maya, illusion. I mean, this is sad, but when you read it, it almost makes you laugh. You say, this is ridiculous. This is like so ridiculous. I hate the Russians. I hate the Russians. I'm killing them. I get killed by a Russian. What do I become in my next life? I'm thinking of the Russian and I got shot in the battle. Hare Krishna. I mean, Prabhupada is not saying this just like to have fun, because it sounds good and it's entertaining and even maybe some people think it's almost funny. He's not saying it for that reason. He's actually explaining this is what happens. Now, we're going to read one more and then we'll have some discussion and take questions and comments. This is about the surfers. And so I have two disciples who are dangerously close to becoming fish in their next life. So this is especially for them. I was also dangerously close. I wasn't dangerously close. I was becoming a fish. But Prabhupada saved me from becoming a fish. Well, I think I've lost the desire to become a fish, but let's read this. This is something you probably have heard before, but I wanted to give it to you directly as Prabhupada explained it. So this is from the book, Dialectic Spiritualism. Dialectic means a discussion, going deeper into a topic, and this is where Prabhupada discussed different philosophies. According to nature's process, everything is calculated at the time of death. Here in Hawaii, we see there are many boys addicted to the water sport called surfing. Now they are creating a mentality which will enable them to become aquatics. Aquatics, fish. So naturally, at the time of death, they will think of all these things and nature will give them a body accordingly. We cannot check this process. After death, we are completely under nature's control. We cannot dictate. Since people cannot or will not understand this, they conclude there is no life after death. So there's two things I want to clarify here. The first thing is you're thinking, well, all he's doing is surfing, and that seems like kind of like a high price to pay to become a fish. But Prabhupada's saying, but that's what they're thinking about. That's their meditation. That's what they want. And anyone who's a surfer, and as a former surfer, I can attest for all surfers that it's an addictive sport and your mind is absorbed in the ocean. You're always thinking about the ocean, always thinking about the waves. You always want to go out and be in the ocean. And I'm sure some surfers would probably think, oh, being a dolphin or a seal would be really good because I could be 24/7 surfing. But the point is, their mind is absorbed, and I would say skin divers also, because Sindhu Lali likes to skin dive. So, she said it's so beautiful. She showed me a picture of these people. I don't know how they do it. They hold their breath. They learn how to hold their breath, and then they go diving with no tank, and they go swimming around. And they have this swimsuit. They look like fish, actually. And all these beautiful places under the ocean, in caves and so forth. So it's like, it's just like, when you're down there, it's like, you could imagine, you're just down in the ocean, you're alone, there's nobody there, fish are going around, it's very mystical, otherworldly. You become very attached and just want to do that and find your pleasure there. So that's the point Prabhupada's making. The other point Prabhupada's making is, if this is how you're thinking, it's not like you can think your way out of this and say, no, that's not going to happen, or that's not going to happen to me. You can control what happens to you, but if you think this way, it will happen to you. So Prabhupada's saying, this is not under our control. We can't just say, I don't believe this. And you may or may not believe it. It's just like, back in the hippie days, someone would take LSD and say, I can fly, and they'd jump off a building, but they didn't fly. So believing you can fly, I wouldn't recommend trying that. Maybe, if you have strong belief, strong faith, maybe it'll happen. But generally, maybe like 99.9999999% of the time, is not going to happen. I don't want to say it couldn't happen. Krishna couldn't do anything. So Prabhupada's just saying, this is the law, this is karma, this is how it works, and you can't change that. And if whatever you're thinking, that's what you're going to become, whether you like it or not, whether you think it's true or not. Whatever you're thinking doesn't affect the reality. That's the point. So now, if you have, today has been a special day, there have been no questions or comments. What does that mean? You want me to sing a song? Now it's time for questions. Question time. Who has a question? Yesterday, all we had is questions. Today, I don't see any. Maybe I have to go back up. This is the most unusual class we've ever had. There are no questions or comments. Okay. What does that mean? It means you want me to read more. I can read more. No problem. I was just trying to get through those quotes. If you have no more questions, then we can read. Now, let's read the next one, because this is good, because it totally contradicts. Well, not totally. It apparently contradicts what Prabhupada just said about Ajamila. So this is appropriate. So anyway, if you have any comments or questions, you can write them in the chat box. If you're watching this on my personal page, you have to go to my professional page to do that. This is from the book Dialectic Spiritualism, and I named this, if you don't practice remembrance now, you won't remember Krishna at death. The other side of the equation. Shama Sundar. According to Catholicism, at the time of death, a priest can absolve you of your sins, Prabhupada, provided you have the consciousness to understand the words of the priest. That's an interesting statement, isn't it? Shamasundar. Even though one has committed many sins throughout his life, he can be absolved of his sins on his deathbed. Now Prabhupada explains, that is quite possible because a priest can remind you of God at the time of death. Your thoughts at the time of death are very important. There are so many examples of Jamil, Bharat Maharaj. Therefore, King Kulik Shakar prays, let me die immediately while I am thinking of Krishna. Of course, unless we are practiced, it is not possible to think of Krishna at the time of death, because at that time there are many bodily disturbances. Therefore, from the beginning, austerities are required. So it appears that Prabhupada was saying, you can just lie down, the priest will do some prayers, you'll remember God. It's like saying, it's possible, but then Prabhupada says, but if you're not practiced to think that way, it's not going to happen. You have to be doing that from an early age. Like Prahlad Maharaj, when he was talking to his friends, he was telling them about Krishna, and his friends were saying, come on, we're only 5. Why are you telling us this? This is like, this is like adult stuff, it's philosophy. We just want to go out and play. We ain't talking about philosophy, you nerd. You could imagine, these 5-year-old boys, Prahlad's preaching philosophy, and they're like, what are you talking about? We're only 5, we just play. Don't be that way, we just want to play. And Prahlad said, no. They said, this is like adult stuff. This is stuff you do when you're older. And Prahlad said, no, you better do it now. Because you need all the time you can get, and you don't even know when you're going to die. So you should start now, because if you do it now, you get it impregnated in your consciousness. And then when you're older, it's there. And so that's the example of Ajamila. He was fortunate he did it when he was young. So if you're born in a devotee family, you are so fortunate. And if you're born in a non-devotee family, you are fortunate when you meet Prabhupada. But before that, you've got some samskars to work out. But if you have good impressions from birth, it's great fortune. So that's Prabhupada's point. Prabhupada saying, if you haven't practiced, you haven't done austerity, death is such a traumatic experience. To think that, even a priest can come and just go talk about God. It could happen, but if you're not practiced, it's like, why would you want to gamble on this? It's like, why would you want to gamble on death? Well, I'll just, have my I'll hire a Brahmin and send him over when I'm on my deathbed, and I'll remember Krishna. Why would you want to gamble that? So the conclusion for us is practice, 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 practice. Okay, I'm going to read something. It's the last thing on this list. Kamaniya, you won't even have time to get there. But just the other day, this is Prabhupada, 1966 again, just the other day I recited one Bengali proverb. This is a very common saying in Bengali. They say, Bhajan karo, pujan karo, mrityu kale hoy. You like that? Bhajan karo, pujan karo, mrityu kale hoy. Koro. Bhajan karo, pujan karo, mrityu kale hoy. Whatever you do for perfection, at the time of your death, it will be tested. At the time of your death, tested. That's a Bengali statement. Whatever you're trying to do to perfect your life, at death it'll be tested. So why would you want to gamble? Why would you want to take a chance? And just say, well, we'll just have fun and remember Krishna at death. Another one, this is October, so coming in, October 26, 1966. Same question, just devotee. So this is like devotees, this is 1966, they don't know anything. Devotee, Swamiji, while it's true that anyone who thinks of Krishna as he is dying can take on the body of Krishna, is it not true that if you don't spend your life thinking of Krishna, it may be difficult at the time of death to remember him because of attachment, material attachment? Prabhupada, certainly. If you don't practice, then at the time of examination, certainly you'll fail. So what's the point here? Prabhupada's saying, practice, practice, practice. If you don't practice for the time of death, how do you think you're going to pass the examination? But if you did devotional service and even you left and forgot Krishna, Krishna will save you. That's the point. So that's the case. Ajamila, sinful. How did he remember Krishna? Krishna took mercy on his devotee. Once you're a devotee, you do devotional service, Krishna has your back. That's an important point. Because look what Ajamila did. Ajamila didn't just bloop. He blooped in style. He didn't just like, oh, this bhakti is too much. I'm just going to go back to college, get a job, and and do software programming and just have a family and be normal. He was not normal. He was a criminal. He was disturbing people. He was a thief. He lived a bad life. And still, Krishna came to him. That's important. But it's not like you can depend on that and say, well, I've done enough devotional service. You can't depend on that. So you have both things. So the main thrust is Prabhupada saying you have to practice. But if you fall away, if you've done bhakti, Krishna will come. That's reassuring. So let's read on. Certainly, if you don't practice, then at the time of examination, certainly you'll fail. If you say, all right, I shall see in the examination hall. I shall write everything nice. That is nonsense. You have to study nicely before the examination. Therefore, it is said, Yudya cha mam anusmara. Practice it. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. What is yoga? Yoga means practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina. That's Bhagavad Gita 8:8. Abhyasa means practice. Abhyasa yoga, practice yoga. Steadily, without anything else. Let me read that again. So the question was, can I remember Krishna at the time of death? Because Prabhupada's talking about the Ajamila story, and this is the same lecture. So obviously somebody's confused. Well, does that mean that I can think of Krishna at the time of death if I don't practice my life? Prabhupada says, if you don't practice, then at the time of examination, certainly you'll fail. And Prabhupada laughs. If you say, all right, I shall see in the examination hall. I shall write everything nice. That is nonsense, meaning you didn't prepare and you just think, I'll do well. You have to study nicely before the examination. Therefore it is said, Yudya cha ma anusmar. Remember me and fight. Practice it. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. What is yoga? Yoga means practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyagamina. 8:8. And the translation, he who meditates on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, Arjuna, is sure to reach me. You go, you will go. Wherever your mind is, that's where you're going. We all know that. We're pulled around by our mind. Your mind goes to Krishna. Where do you think you're going to go? Mind goes somewhere else, you go there. Yoga means you do not allow your mind to go anywhere else. Just try to engage. Savaya mana Krishna padara vindaya. Bhagavatam 9:4-18. Maharshi Ambarish always engaged his mind in meditating upon the lotus feet of Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Vidyanand, how are you? Vidyanand is a god brother. He's wonderful. He has a transcendental brain. He sees everything in very Krishna conscious ways. Should we read more? No comments. You'll get more. Today's your lucky day. So, I'm reading out of order. Confusing. It must be confusing you, Kamaniya. Totally out of order. But I may have read everything. Oh, we have another interesting quote. This is Prabhupada describing death as like sleeping. It's not as bad as you think. So this is from October 23rd, 1966. This is a lecture, and I titled this, Death is Like Sleeping. So, Kamini, I think you can get this one up. This is on page 31. October 23rd, 1966, Death is Like Sleeping. And once we read this, I think we've read everything that I have to read. I'm just going down. I don't think we're going to read that much. We did good today. Yeah, we read everything. That means I have to study more tomorrow morning. Okay. This is the advantage of Krishna consciousness. Because at the time of death, whatever you practice now in your healthy life, that will be. Just like asleep, we dream of things, of our activities. Similarly, this death is also a kind of dream. Death is a dream. Sleep, sleeping. Death is nothing but sleeping for 7 months. That's all. Sleeping for 7 months. That is called death. I guess because Prabhupada's saying after the 7th month you become conscious. Just like in the operation table, one becomes unconscious for 1 hour, half an hour, and then he comes to his consciousness. Again, he comes to the same point. So similarly, death is nothing but to remain practically unconscious for 7 months. That's all. This body is left, and we enter into a particular womb of mother. And just to develop another body, it takes about 7 months. Then after 7 months, when the body is fit, then our consciousness comes back. Then we want to come out of the womb, and at the 10th month. You say, why does Prabhupada say 10th? Because they count different in India. They, like the day you're born, that's your first birthday. So what we would call 1-year-old would be after a year. In India, they call it 2. So Prabhupada's counting that way. That's why he says 10 months. As soon as you're impregnated, that's the first month, not the end of that month, the beginning. So it ends up being 10 if you count that way. After 7 months, when the body is fit, then our consciousness comes back. Then we want to come out of the womb. And at the 10th month, we come out. That is a very miserable condition. That is the miserable condition of life. So basically, Prabhupada's saying, it's just, you go to sleep, you're unconscious, you're dreaming, you don't really know what's going on. And then you wake up, and he says, death is like that. You're just unconscious. It's like sleeping. So maybe it's not as bad as you think. Okay, so we have a comment here. Oh, is it that I'm not getting the comments? Is that it? There are a lot of questions and comments, but you don't see them. Oh, this happens. Yes. Why do I see from some and not from others? Oh, that's why it says Mahatmadas, because it's coming from my other page. Well, Krishna Karshini, I don't see you. We missed it. Well, we still have time. So what should we do? How am I going to get those comments? I have to go. If you, why don't you email them to me? Can you do that? Krishna Karshini, just email them and then I'll look at them. Is that possible? Or the other thing is to send them to someone who I'm seeing here, like Kamaniya, I see you. Or Kamaniya, you go into my other page and get them. Yeah, this is a problem. Once we started going on the professional page, I wasn't getting all the comments. I wonder if it doesn't like comments, like get too many, or it doesn't like all of you. Oh, okay, she's going to email, so I'll go on my email. Well, maybe it was Krishna. Maybe Krishna wanted me to read a lot today. Well, so that was good. We got to read a lot, and I bet I answered some of your chat questions already. And so here they are. They have come up. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, haven't come up yet. Yeah. You swipe to the right of your phone and accidentally close the chat? No, because I see. But I'll bring the chat back. Question from Kirti. If one remembers Krishna at the time of death, but one has still one material desire in the heart, can he go back to guided? Because Prabhupada said even if you have material desire to take birth. Yeah, but Prabhupada, if you dedicate your life, the idea is dedicate your life to Krishna and Prabhupada will take care of you. That's the idea. So we may not be like perfectly like free from every material desire, but questions one question at a time. But I'll look for them first up here on the phone. Yeah, I've got your. So just give your life to Krishna and don't worry, he'll take care of you. And Prabhupada said, maybe you're not 100% pure, but I'll make a concession for you. So some concession. Can someone figure out why I don't see the question? Nadia, question from Vera in Russia, or Vera. How to start chanting the holy names, not out of your duty, but out of pure desire from your heart. And how to concentrate the mind. Well, all you have to do, I have this beautiful guided meditation. And the guided meditation explains, we have nice music, that you turned your back on Krishna. And then you fell into this material world and tried to enjoy. But you couldn't. And you suffered. There's some background music there. So basically, what this meditation was saying is that when you're chanting to Krishna, basically you're saying, I fell away from you, I want to get back to you, but I have such a strong tendency to turn my back to you because I've done it for so long. I'm just putting myself at your feet. Please help me, help me, help me. Turn my face towards you. And if you understand that's what you're doing when you're chanting, that's what the mantra means, then that desire, you're connecting with that desire. You are asking this question out of pure desire. We already have that desire. It's already there in us. That's why we became devotees. So all you have to do is search in, dial in 108 in your heart, search in that desire that I don't want to be in the material world. I don't want to be separate from Krishna. I want to be connected. Tune that desire in and then begin chanting. And that will also help you concentrate as well. Okay. And read my book, Japa Affirmations. It's available in Russia. I'm not sure exactly how to get it, but just Google Japa Affirmations, or maybe Natalie or someone can tell you how to get it. And read that book, it'll help you. Michael Green, what if you did devotional service and throughout your karmic life you always remember Krishna and regret leaving the ashram? As long as you're not engaged in sinful activity, and trying to do some devotional service, whatever, it's like whatever you've done in the past, it doesn't matter if you, from now on, surrender sincerely. Krishna, please forgive me, and go forward. And Krishna forgives everything. That's the idea. Just don't stop doing it and go forward. No matter what happened in the past, stop it, go forward. And then you're good. Yeah, you can post them here. It's easier than on my email. Is that all the questions we have? Which is not a problem because it's time to stop. But if there's any more, you can post them. It's somehow or other, some of you, I can see what you're writing, and some of you I can't. Yes, Kamini, post more. I'm reading them because Kamini is sending them. She's reposting. Yes, Krishna wanted us to read more, definitely. Vishwanath, I can read. Why don't you put your question again? Where do we get the meditation that you played? You don't get it yet. I'm going to put that meditation on Facebook. It's a sample of, we've done many of these meditations, but they're actually done for non-devotees. We're developing an app. But I'm going to put it out, and I want to get your feedback back. I have a few of them. So, yeah, where do you get it? It's on my computer. That's where you get it. Okay, let's have an auction. How much do you want to pay for this? You know, remember I was telling you about having a site? It's called the Proteon site. Proteon. I would put it up there. Okay, I'll give you a sample. I don't know if you can hear this. This is entertainment values going up now. Oh, I know what we can do. I'm going to plug in my speakers. Listen to this. I'm just going to give you a few.
We are small.
A few minutes.
We are insignificant. We are powerless against the forces of nature. We are forced to grow old. We are forced to die. In a moment, we could lose our lives at the hands of a natural disaster. Or a small germ. A small germ could make us deathly sick.
Actually, that's the wrong meditation. And I don't have the one I was telling you about on my computer yet. I have to find it. But this leads in to show that we're helpless and that we have to cry to the holy name. So I will make these available to you. That was just appetizer for you right now. I will make these available to you. I'm working on them every day. They've been recorded 6 months ago, but we're putting music to them. And every day I take different samples of music and put them and to decide what's the best music for them. So, but I will give you. I'm going to put it on my list. If anyone has nothing to do, just I can give you 500 things to do. This is all the things that I have to do that I didn't get to for the last 2 weeks. And this is only half. The other half is in my head. But I am going to put that up for you. And you will see it on Facebook. I'm not sure when I'll put it up. Maybe today. But I would also appreciate your feedback, because we actually did this for non-devotees, but devotees like it. It's really, Really helpful. Okay. You want the one I just played? Maybe. We'll see. If you're a good girl, Sweta, maybe you'll get it. Question from Vishwanath. My question was, if Ajamil knew about Narayana in his childhood, who his chanting of the name is considered Namabhas instead of Namaparad, maybe he didn't know about the glories and offenses against the name. Yeah, that's correct. He didn't know. That's why it's Namabhas. Ignorance does help sometimes. Mahatma Gandhi chanted Ram. They say he did, but I read something recently that that's actually not true. That's interesting. They say he's chanting Ram, but I read he wasn't. That was made up. Makes him look good. But, if he was chanting Ram, then he would go back to Ram, but I'm not sure. How do we manage grief? That's a big question, because sometimes I feel it makes us rebellious. Patreon. We're still meditating on that. The best way that I can think of is not necessarily to manage grief, it's to manage everything that the world throws at you, to learn how to manage everything by staying very, how should we say, very close to your Krishna consciousness, 24 hours a day, all the time, very close to the philosophy, very deep in your bhakti. All these things, ultimately is going to help you manage grief, because the more you live the philosophy, the more the philosophy is real in your life, then the more you're going to be able to deal with everything the world throws at you, because you have the consciousness, the tools, the knowledge, the association. Every problem you have, somewhere in the Bhagavatam, it's addressed. So that's the best way. I mean, there are other things from the material perspective you can do to manage grief. But ultimately, grief is managed, the grief of losing someone is managed by knowledge. Hiranyaksha was killed, and then Hiranyakashipu gave a whole talk. He explained the philosophy, we're not the body, because everyone was grieving, so he gave knowledge. Isn't that interesting? Even he knew. So Jesse says, I asked earlier, but it's related to earlier discussion. If we are beginning on our path to bhakti and are still filled with material desires, it is not better to ask Krishna for our desires than want them anyways and not ask for Krishna? It depends what the desire is. Because if you're beginning on the path of bhakti, there's some desires you're going to have to give up. So it's like, you're not going to pray to Krishna to get a good price on marijuana. Right? Where's the best Krishna? Guide me to the best marijuana shop. It has the best quality and the best price. So you want to start praying to Krishna for things which will help you in your Krishna consciousness. And if you feel that fulfilling material desire will help you, then it's okay. But just to pray for sense gratification, it's not going to help you. That would be a disaster. So what you're saying is true, but just praying for gross sense gratification. Now that you're a devotee, what you should be praying is that, Krishna, I want this, and I know it's not good for me, so I'm praying to you that I can overcome the desire. That would be better. Or Krishna, if you think I need this, or if you think this is helpful, something like that. I don't know the details of what you're praying for, so that's the best I can say right now. Like requests for the prayers class on SoundCloud. Yeah, just go to SoundCloud and look up the word prayer or praying and see what comes up. It should be there. Gomati. Am I right to say that a sinful person will not be able to chant the holy name if he has not done any devotional service? These are general ideas. We can't say in every case, but, you're a devotee, you can make somebody fortunate, by being there at the time of death, getting them to chant. But as a general principle, that's the basic idea Prabhupada's giving. You're not really inclined to do that. How do we always be Krishna conscious in quarantine? By reading more and chanting more. And he says, because it's not always possible to be reading. Service. Write an article about Krishna in Polish. Translate something in Polish. Get online, do a class in Polish. Yeah. Krishna, how can I serve you? What can I do? Think about how you can serve Krishna. Think about, in this situation that I'm in now, what are the advantages of this situation over the fact that going out and doing so many things, what could I do now? How could I do something now, Like gather all your people, your mailing list, or everyone you know, and, there's so many new people that are looking for Krishna in Poland. Or, we already have so many things translated in Polish. You can be posting those in different places. Things like that. You have to think, what can I do? What service can I do now? What can I improve? Like that. Facebook is not always allowing to scroll further up to see earlier questions, I'd imagine. The comments will be visible once the video posts after. Maybe. How can we intensify our desire to serve Krishna while chanting? Meditate on the meaning of the holy name. That's the instruction of the acharyas. That will intensify your desire. The more you're connected with it, what is the essence of it? You connect with it not intellectually, but on deeply on the level of feeling. Then it'll become more intense. Basics of Prayer, Part 1. Yeah, good. There you go. There's the link. Okay, we're going to end class. The guided meditation. Now, the one I was telling you about it's a whole meditation on how we came to this world. We were looking for happiness. We became frustrated. We're turning around. We're now asking Krishna to help us turn away from Maya, turn towards him. It's a beautiful meditation. So thank you for watching. And we're having class tonight, but it's not for you. It's for the second generation. So if you're a second generation, and if you're a second generation, that means you were born a devotee. This class is only for those born devotees. We are discriminating tonight. We are transcendentally prejudiced. But if you want to be part of it, just send me a message and I can give you the address. There's going to be a question and answer session for the second generation. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We'll see you tomorrow in Russian. We're going to translate into Russian, so it'll be a little slower. It's going to be on SoundCloud, and I think it's a new address every Thursday. Not on SoundCloud, excuse me, on Zoom. So we'll have to get that to you. The Zoom will get it to you, and then Radha Priya will put it out there. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.